What's the craziest thing you've experienced with Zeppelin?
I do remember an after show experience that was amazing. They played in Memphis, where I happened to live at the time and work. I was there backstage before the show, but there was a lot of press stuff going on and pictures and things being done. And then they played the show. During the show itself, the crowd went absolutely berserk. Weren't sitting and watching. They weren't just standing and watching. The almost entire crowd had stood up on the seats, and they were just pounding their feet, standing on the chairs. And this was during A Whole Lot of Love near the end of the show, and it was just insanity. Well, the manager of the Coliseum where they were playing, the Mid South Coliseum, a man named, believe it or not, Bubba Bland, was the manager, and he was furious. You were tearing up my place, you stupid hippie kids in the audience. So he literally, and I hate that word literally, I hear it all the time when people don't mean literally, but in this case, in actuality, the manager pulled a gun on Peter Grant and pointed it at him and said, "I want you to stop this show or there's going to be real trouble." And it was just, what?
That's
So
crazy.
Peter got Robert's attention. So you've got to calm down, calm everything down. This is getting out of hand. There's actually a gun back here, and it's not good. Now, just 3 days before, their limousine had been shot between Dallas and Fort Worth, and a bullet had gone through the limousine. So Robert, everybody calm down, bring the music down soft, bring it down low, whatever. And they really, whispering A Whole Lot of Love. And everybody calmed down. They turned the lights on in the Coliseum. He said, "I want everyone to sit down. We've got to finish this show. We're having trouble back here with the people of the facility, so let's please calm it down."
Wow.
And everybody sat down and all, and then they came back full, and everybody's right back up screaming. It was just so exciting, unbelievably good.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the thing, I was backstage in the dressing room with only Peter Grant, the four band members, and me in this dressing room backstage. And I just said, "Guys, I've got to apologize for the city of Memphis, for the state of Tennessee, for the Coliseum. This wasn't what most people would do. This one man was just over the top. Please accept my apology for everything." They said, "We're never playing here again." And we're just furious. So I just couldn't believe it. So that was sort of a special backstage experience. Then after that, Jimmy, the rest of the band left, and Jimmy, I had this gigantic Mercedes 300 limousine I had bought that somebody had, and I just couldn't help but buy it. It was it was think it had been a United Nations car at one time. It had a back seat that was as big as you could live in it. It was huge. So Jimmy had let me get a pass to pull that inside the Coliseum at the backstage area.
Yeah.
So we went out, and I got in the car. Jimmy got in the car, and his girlfriend Charlotte got in the car, and my wife at the time. And I drove him to my apartment where I had an Indian dinner all set up. We had a late night dinner. I knew he loved Indian food, and you couldn't get it out and tour in the U.S. So I'd had an Indian people I knew make a beautiful dinner, everything. But fans saw the car leaving, and they just, that's Jimmy Page in there. And they were following us down streets, and I was driving as fast as I could.
Oh, man.
Swerving around. It's like a movie chase, trying to get away. And finally we got to my apartment, and we ran inside and locked the door. And what a night. Anyway.
That is amazing. So I gotta ask you though, the guy with the gun, what ended up happening with him when the crowd re-erupted?
He was unhappy. He basically, I mean, I don't know. At that point, I was running for backstage. I didn't see the further things that happened. I didn't want anywhere near any of that. But a shot was not fired. I know that.
That's good.
And the show ended, and it was very, very bad scene, though.
Jeez. It's funny because I would imagine that Peter Grant would typically be the one kind of pushing somebody around, so to speak, instead of getting pushed around.
not with a gun in someone's hand.
Oh
He
man,
he was too smart for that.
that's hilarious. So I mean, do you have any like just on that topic? Is there any one Peter Grant moment you saw where you were like, "Whoa, like this guy is just really going crazy here"?
There was one. I don't know if I could tell it.
Okay,
It's it's
it's up to you, man.
ooh, it's a bit rude uh, in some ways.
Okay, it's up to you. Whatever you're comfortable with.
I, I saw him in a restaurant in the restaurant at the Hyatt House on Sunset
Okay.
that people called the Riot
Yeah.
House. In the little coffee shop in the morning, the band was all still asleep, but I was up and Peter was up. He said, "Come on down for coffee, whatever, tea." So we're sitting there, and a particular promoter was there,
Hmm.
and Peter was arguing with him that he had cheated them on the figures. That the promoter will do a show and then bring you the figures and give you your money. And he said, "You charge for this and you shouldn't, blah, 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 blah." And the guy was arguing back. The waitress brought up cups of hot tea,
Okay.
just boiling hot, literally almost boiling, literally, I said it again, almost boiling water.
Yeah.
And Peter stood up, looked at the guy, opened a part of his trousers,
Oh, geez.
and placed a part of his anatomy in the hot cup of tea,
Oh man.
and looked straight in the eye, and just left it there and looked straight in the eye of the promoter. And the promoter said, "I give up. You're right. Here's your other money."
Wow.
It's hard to say it without saying words I really wouldn't normally be saying in public.
That's crazy.
But hopefully that gets the gist of it. But he did it for the band. He was wanting to, you think you're tough, here's tough. And that's pretty tough.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I think that would qualify as tough, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
when you were there just seeing this, how do you react in a situation like that?
I just keep quiet, sit there and drink my tea.
When it comes to Zeppelin, a lot of people consider Peter Grant like the fifth member of the band, so to speak, right? What was Peter Grant like? Like was he a very aggressive person from what I understand? Like how was he to be around?
Around me and the band and whatever, he was a total sweetheart. He was like a great big teddy bear. He had been an ex-professional wrestler.
Yeah.
Big guy, very strong, very he could intimidate you if he wanted to, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But no, just working day to day, he was a lovely man. I really, really liked him. He was so devoted to the band. I mean, he really saw them not as his kids because they were too old for that, but really as a family. And he took care of them like I've never seen a manager take care of a band. He really, really loved them deeply. And of course, they were being so successful. Mm-hmm. You love that too, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But I have seen him I went to many concerts over the years, probably close to 50 or maybe even more than 50 Zeppelin shows live. And when he needed to be, like on one show, he saw what he thought were microphones out in the aisles of one of the shows. I think this may have been Baltimore. There were a tripod set up and something that looked like microphones out there. And he was furious. Somebody was recording Zeppelin from the show. So he charged out into there, grabbed the equipment, picked it up, threw it against the wall, smashed it all up. It turned out it was some scientists doing tests of levels during sound check to see how loud a band was or something.
Yeah.
But he could literally pick people up and throw them around. And I've seen him do things like that because he was taking care of the band. But so, yeah, he was two sides of him, very tough and aggressive when he had to be, but just a total sweetheart when you were there in private.
Do you remember first meeting him?
First meeting him. Wow. Oh, gosh. I don't remember if it was at a show, if there was a show first, because he was not at the Yardbird shows that I'm talking about before, even though he did manage them at one point, I believe. But he wasn't at those shows. But so it either would have been at the first pickup at the airport when they came for the very first between shows recording and mixing thing, or I might have gone to a show before that and met him. I honestly don't remember though, but I'm like, he was much taller than that. I'm like 140 pounds. He's like 280 pounds or something. Big man. So if he wanted to just use that girth and bulk and intimidate somebody, he could certainly do it. But lovely man to me from the very first. Hearty handshake and a big hug, and off we went.
That's so cool. Do you have any one memory of him that sticks out to you?
Well, the one I just mentioned of smashing up the equipment
Yeah.
from the scientists. Another time backstage, some people had sneaked in backstage, and I think this might have been in Dallas or Fort Worth, but he caught them with some cameras skulking around, and because he didn't allow any cameras, any recordings, anything of the band that wasn't controlled by the band. And I saw him actually pick people up and throw them out the back door. So those kind of things stick in your head. But I don't want to make it sound like he was a big tough ogre. He was only doing the things he needed to do as a manager, and he had the power to do it.
Was he a funny guy?
Oh, he could be very funny, very, very smart man, very funny, very astute at business things. He did all the contracts. He took care of everything between the band and the label, and really, really watched over things like a mother hen.
That's so cool. So when Jimmy Page approached you to do the mixing and mastering for Zeppelin III, did you have to go through Peter Grant to get it officially contracted or something?
There was no contract or anything. It was all just, let's go to work and do it. There certainly wasn't a contract. It was all just part of the family, part of your friend, helping your friends out, you know?
That's so cool, man. Did you have a relationship with Peter Grant before working on Zeppelin III?
Just a minor one, but we really got close during that.
That's cool, man.
I loved him. I loved that man. He was a really, really wonderful guy.
That's awesome.
And to see him in action out on the backstage shows and taking care of business, wow.
That's so cool.
It was good.
Yeah. Was he very hands-on, like, not like physically, I mean, like, was he very, like, around you during the mixing process, or did he kind of give you your space?
Definitely giving space. Jimmy was hands-on on everything. He was very much the producer in every capacity on this. He was really, really, I just was astounded by his musical brilliance and technical brilliance, always, every song. But Peter would sit back and, I mean, he wouldn't dare to contradict Jimmy in musically or anything. You know, he knew Jimmy was the guy. That was the bread and butter for the band right there. You know, he was the man. So yeah, he just would say, that sounds great, guys, keep going.
That's awesome.